Okay. So as I told you today, we will revise on the topics that you asked me to revise on. When I'm saying revise, I mean that I will recap on the main points and on the style of questions you might struggle with if you found this question in that way. So let's start the coordination and response. The first message was from Omar. So let's start working on this topic. I send some of you send me privately about the eye structure, about the coordination response, so the part of the auxins in plants. So we will take a look on everything in this topic quickly. Um,
اه
in this topic,
hello. في واحدة بتسأل
Omar,
هنعمل ايه النهارده في
mute
الميتنج.
your mic, Omar. Okay, Ahmed. So please keep a paper in front of you guys, just in case. And I know some of you already, they have like Joey, maybe Maya, they might have a paper in front of them to write with me the basic technicalities that we need to know in this topic. So we will start quickly working on coordination. And please, Omar, I think this will be super beneficial for you. And this will shrink the time of revision tomorrow with us. In this topic, we started with the stimulus, the definition of a stimulus and response. We took sensitivity in topic 2 and the definition of sensitivity. That's why we want to apply here on this topic. Stimulus, or the plural of it is stimuli, any change in the environment and your body will respond to. I don't like the word react, but anyways, if you wrote react, it will be perfect, no problem at all. So anything your body or any living organism respond to considered as a stimulus, whatever we are talking about, light, for example, for some organism, or temperature, or while you are walking at home, if anything penetrates your skin, if you touch a hot pan, for example, all of this considered as a stimulus. And what is the coming from the nervous system? So please, in your answer, don't forget to write that the nervous system regulates the body function or coordinates the response according to specific stimuli. So very important to use those words in your answer. Please, guys, I told you several times, for any question, ya Ahmed, you will not write at least 3 or 4 scientific terms. This means that you will not take the full mark of this question. Again, and I'm saying it clearly in every single meeting. If you did check all my meetings, you will find me saying this. For any question, like long response question, you have to write at least from 3 to 4 scientific terms. And under any circumstances يا ريتاج بقى, if you found your answer is less than this means ان I'm sure ان انا لسه ما قدرتش collect the full mark of the question. Our brain, our spinal cord is the basic part of the central nervous system, and they both responsible for taking a rapid action or rapid response. So why do we need a rapid response? اوكي يس يا احمد، برافو عليك. قال لي الانجليش زود ترمينولوجي ده من داي 1 احنا بنقول. برافو عليك يا احمد، ربنا يبارك لك وان شاء الله تبقى يعني 9 ستودنتس زي ما انا متوقع يعني. For the second part, now we need about central nervous system, and there is no need to talk about the at all. Focus on the central nervous system. The central nervous system made up of the brain and the spinal cord. The transmission and the passageway of signals, yeah, Abdurrahman, you asked me for this one day. Okay, I can't remember honestly, but I think this should be in your mind, because if he asked about any stimuli and response, you will write same technique. Simply same technique, Yakimo. You will start from the receptor, then how the receptor sense the change or detect the stimuli, sending the message through what, Yamaya? Through the sensory neuron. to the relay neuron in the brain or central nervous system, and the relay will coordinate and regulate the action taken. Finally, by another neuron, which is the motor neuron, the message will be sent to the effector. The action will be taken by the effector. So please, 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 don't forget the sequence, because if you forgot one of the neurons, you might struggle to take the full mark of the question. You should start from the receptor and how it detected the stimuli, and how the sensory neurons send the message to the central nervous system. Wallahi, in the exam, if he mentioned the spinal cord, so it considered as the central nervous system part. If he mentioned the brain, so this is the central nervous system part. And it regulates. So listen to what I'm saying. Regulates is the verb that you will use, or coordinates. And finally, the motor neuron will send the message to the effector. Next part. In neurons will shape of neurons. Omar, no problem. Let me finish a specific part, then I will listen to all your questions. So if you don't mind, please write down the question عشان ما تجيش تقول لي يا مستر لا خلاص نسيته. Write down the question that you want to ask in any part, and بس give me a chance for the flow of the session عشان نلحق نخلص أكتر من topic in the class. Here we have the sensory neuron, the relay neuron, and the motor neuron. The typical shape of the neuron is the motor neuron, Yamaya. So the motor neuron has dendrites, collects all of the signals from the previous cell, has also the axon, and the axon has a myelin sheath made up of lipids to insulate the nerve cell or the neuron, because we don't want any kind of leakage of the electrical impulses. Our body is a good conductor of electricity. لو أنا ما عنديش insulator, this means إن إحنا كلنا هنكون بنكهرب actually. Okay? And then the terminals of each neuron, and these terminals responsible for sending the message to the effector. طيب هل أنا لازم أعرف ال different shapes of the neurons? Yes, you have to know the different shapes of the neurons. Why? Because he might ask you to label. So الsensory neuron يا جوي النيورون اللي has a lateral body, like what you can see here. طب why, sir? Why it has a lateral body? Because it should transmit the signals quickly to the relay neuron. As long as in the relay neuron all its function inside the brain or spinal cord, there is no need to be that long. We need a relay neuron to do the regulation job quickly and send the message to the motor neuron. Don't forget that we have a synaptic area between all of the neurons. So if he asked you in the exam, what's synapse? Synapse is just a small or tiny junction between neurons, and it helps in transmission of neurotransmitters. The signals called the neurotransmitters, and I will explain this here. So that's what we mentioned. In synapse is a tiny junction between neurons, and all of the nerve impulses in a form of chemical substance called the neurotransmitters will pass through the synapse from one neuron to another. How this impulse is transmitted, I am expecting this question in your paper. And it's super easy if you understand. وانا من day one بقول لكم البيولوجي معروف انه كله حفظ. But actually, if you understand, you will write the answer. If you know well how to use the scientific word, how to read and analyze the question well till the last single word, and how to know that every single point has different idea, because you might write 6 points for the 6 marks question, but 2 of them are repeated or delivering the same idea, and this will be a mistake. because you will get 5 out of 6. And it happened with you during the whole year. Okay, you came and asked me, sir, why didn't I take a full mark in this question? It should be a full mark in this question. Honestly, you cannot, because you repeated some ideas, and it's not the case in Cambridge exams. So for the synapse or synaptic area, you have to talk about the synapse as a definition. So first of all, you have to talk about synaptic area and how synapse is Malak Hakim in the meeting, Yolet? She did not say anything, but
Yes,
I want to make, sorry?
I'm here.
Okay, Malak. Okay. Just to make sure that you are in. Um, okay. So for the synaptic area, we have to write the definition first. This is the general point, and you know well, a generalization technique will give you the first mark easily. دايما بقول لكم you will steal the first mark from the examiner if you wrote a general point related طبعا not يعني general انك تتكلم على اي topic في البايو. I mean general point about the question. Here in this question you should talk about synapse and you should write the definition of synapse first. You will take the first mark. Then you will talk about neurotransmitters as a physical substance transmitted through the in a vesicle through the cell membrane. It fuses with the cell membrane, and by diffusion, it will move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration without energy. So now we got 3 marks. What's after? You need to talk about receptors. Please, Yarutaj, don't forget to talk about receptors on the relay neuron or on any kind of neuron that he's talking about. ممكن جدا يقول لي from sensory to relay. ما تجيش تقول لي يا مستر ربنا يسامحك you said from the presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic neuron. Any neuron before يا جوي synaptic cleft called the presynaptic neuron. Any neuron after called the postsynaptic neuron. And the postsynaptic neurons has receptors. All of the receptors bind, and you said today in our session, يا جوي, إنها it will bind because it fits the shape of the receptor or the protein found in the postsynaptic membrane. Then what's after? خليك بقى ذكي وقول لي last point. احنا بنعمل كل ده ليه؟ عشان mention that this message will be transmitted now easily to the next cell. Okay, this is the synaptic.
بس أنا عندي سؤال.
Yes. So
هو في
all your questions. Let's start with Hamza and then Omar. حاضر. Yes.
هو ازاي النيورونز او يعني النيرف نفسه بيخش جوه الفازيكل؟
ازاي الفيزيك لا what do you mean الفيزيكل itself بتفيوز مع
الامبulse
impulse نفسها. It's a kind of neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are chemical signals pass through the cell body of the neuron to the next cell by dendrites. هو كله flow of electric charge يا حمزة.
يعني الكتريك تشارج نفسه بيخش جوه الفازيكل؟
ايوه بتخش جوه الفيزيكل. Then by exocytosis or by refusing it's not mainly exocytosis عشان ما بقاش بقول لك حاجة يعني it's a kind of fusion between the vesicle with cell membrane. So all of the neurotransmitter will be released through synaptic area. Okay,
هو النيوروترانسميتر
it will be engulfed in a vesicle. It is a sac-like structure. We have a lot of vesicles to do this job, to collect all of the neurotransmitters in.
لا انا قصدي ان هو
وكأنها ساك بتستور النيوروترانسميترز دي لحد السيجنالز ما تباس.
قصدي اللي هو لو النيوروترانسميترز دي يعني الامبulse نفسه بيتحول لنيوروترانسميترز ولا هو اصلا نيوروترانسميتر وبيخش بس جوه الفازيكل؟
لا هو اصلا نيوروترانسميترز وبيباس وبيبقى engulfed through inside الفيسيكل وهي اللي بتترانسميت الالكتريك تشارج. ما هي دي كلها ايونز. النيوروترانسميترز ايونز يا حبيبي، كلها الكتريك تشارج اوريدي. Now when I'm saying electric charge ازاي يعني يا حمزة؟ through chemicals.
ماشي.
اوكي تمام. عمر your question. ممكن بليز نحاول نقلل الرايتنج في الشات بوكس ونسأل بالفويس يعني عشان ما افتحش الشات بوكس ونكونسيوم تايم كل شوية. عمر do you have any question؟
يس يا مستر. انا كنت بحل باست بيبر وكان في سؤال بيقول why what makes the electrotransmitters قصدي neurotransmitters move forward، ليه مش بيروحوا في اي حتة تانية؟
by diffusion
a
حبيبي from
3-mark
high
question.
concentration to low concentration. Look هنا in front of you high concentrated neurotransmitters في البري. طب what about the post? Less concentration, so movement will be by diffusion. بلاش البوست to the synaptic area first, then by diffusion from a high to low concentration it will pass from the pre-synaptic to the synaptic cleft. طيب what about the receptors here؟ الريسبتورز هي اللي بتتيك it. بص يا عمر عشان ما لخبطكش، انت عندك two main area دلوقتي. area النيوروترانسميترز فيها by diffusion بتموف من البري للسينابتيك area. طب ايه اللي بيهلب في الفلو اوف النيورو ترانسميترز في للريسبتورز للبوست ساينابتيك ممبرين؟ الريسبتورز البروتين اللي اوريدي بياخد الشيب بتاع او بيفت الشيب بتاع النيورو ترانسميترز ياخدها ويباس للبوست ساينابتيك. فانت اوريدي الميكانيزم بيهلب يو ان ذات. اوكي
هو it attracts it somehow ولا do some neurotransmitters get lost يعني؟
لا
صح
هو في
ولا
بعد ما بندليفر المسج بتبقى either يا اما recycled we can reuse some neurotransmitters again or damage or lost خلاص. It depends on the type of neurotransmitters because we have طبعا more than one type of neurotransmitters in our body.
هو انا ممكن اقول عليهم electrotransmitters يا مستر؟
لا هي neurotransmitters وبطل اسئله ملهاش لازمه. يلا next.
طب
Any
I have
other
one more
question?
question مستر.
Any other questions?
هو creating neurotransmitters uses energy صح؟
Creating neurotransmitters. Did I mention anything about creating neurotransmitters?
هو creating ده انا قصدي في السؤال اللي بيبقى 3 marks ده اللي
لا
بيبقى 3 uses
لا
of
مش
energy.
بيكلمك على الكرييشن اوف نيورو ترانسميترز لان ده ميكانيزم انا درسته في الكليه بتاعتي في 1 month and a half. فانت
اوه
قصه الكرييشن ده مش هيبقى موجود خالص. ما
طيب
تقلقش وانت
مستر.
هتتكلم من اول النيورو ترانسميترز. ايوه ده سؤال كويس ده سؤال كويس لكن اكتب ايه مكان ايه؟ لا يا عمر خليك highly stick to what I'm saying عشان ما تنقص ماركس. The word neurotransmitters لوحدها يا عمر in your answer honestly هتديك مارك زياده.
اوكي يا
اوكي
مستر.
وانا عارف ان
يعني
انت
انا
داخل وانا عارف انك داخل تقفل مش داخل تجيب اي كلام. اوكي
لا ان
يلا
شاء الله يا مستر، بس انا
يلا طبعا.
انا هاخد اي اس كده كده فيعني
لا يا عمر انا هدرس عربي
هاخد
نكست
الميكانيزم.
يير مش هدرس ايه. خلاص.
اه
يلا next slide. السنسيشن والفولنتري اكشنز. بصوا يا حبايبي انا بوريكم هنا بس ازاي المسج will be transmitted whatever name either sensation or voluntary action. انا يهمني ان انا اعرف ازاي المسج will deliver under conscious control or unconsciously through a reflex action. وهنا بدخل في question تاني. What is reflex action? Reflex action happens as an immediate response. طبعا المين characteristics of a reflex action is it is rapid action, it is automatic action, and it is specific عشان اخد الفانكشن بتاعته او الجوب بتاعته like الcranial reflexes or الpupil reflexes. لما بيبقى عندي light okay or bright area we will use this kind of reflex action as an example. الpupil reflection الpupil reflex action okay بنسميه cranial reflex عشان if you found this word in the exam ما تقولوش احنا we didn't take before. or spinal reflexes. cranial reflexes دي اي reflexes controlled by البرين. طب الspinal from the name يا روتاج it is a kind of immediate response controlled by the spinal cord. controlled by the spinal cord. How it could be controlled by the spinal cord؟ بنفس التكنيك اللي احنا we mentioned what يا أحمد, starting from ال receptors, the sensory neuron, the relay neuron, then the motor neuron and the effector. Okay, look at the steps here. You will find it exactly the same as we mentioned in the transmission of signal. Okay, here we have another example. If you touch any hot object, so please وانتوا بتذاكروا من presentation, take a look on the numbers that we mentioned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. خلاص, you will take 5 marks in this question. You will take 5 marks in this question. وموست probably the question of a reflex action مش بيبقى أكتر من 5 marks. Why, guys? Because he wants to check the 5 stages or the 5 stations of the transmission of signals in the brain or in the spinal cord in different diagram. The diagram that was in one of the exams before, ya Hamza. Okay, it was in one of the exams. He asked you about the relay neuron and the motor neuron and the sensory neuron. He asked you to label. لو أنا يا حبايبي if you don't know the shape of the neurons, you might struggle in the starting and ending point. If you don't know يا فيلو إن الإفكتور هو the last muscle or gland اللي بتتيك الأكشن needed, you might struggle. If you don't know that a relay neuron in the brain or spinal cord, you might struggle. فهي a kind of connection of the information يا حبايبي. Okay, so this is the pathway. So يا عمر, as you can see, you need to write about the receptor, about the sensory neuron, the relay neuron, the motor neuron, then the effector. So if you missed or you dropped one of the points, you will lose 1 mark definitely. Okay, this is the difference between the reflex and the voluntary action. Honestly, برضو this is expected for the exam. الرeflex مش comparison, but he might ask you about the reflex action and you should write it happened automatically, unconsciously if you want to write this. It is quick or rapid response and it is specific. Impulses for the reflex action produced by what? Produced by receptors, but the impulses here to take, I'm talking about the action needed, the impulses for the action needed, and for voluntary action, the impulses produced by the brain, because you need to think about the action needed. For the sense organs, let's say that we have a lot of sense organs, and I will not revise on this, بس هقول لكم حاجة simple you might need for the exam. Any sense organ has receptors, because it is a sense organ because of the receptors اللي بتreceive الstimuli. So we have some receptor cells in order to receive the sound. We have some receptor cells to respond to the pain or the temperature. We have some receptor cells in our eyes, which is the rods and cones, in order to detect the light, sense the light, and sending the message as electrical impulses to the optic nerve and the brain. The structure of the eye, there is no need to take a look on the eye from the external structure or the part at the front of the eye, because all what we need in this diagram. So step by step, let's start from the cornea. Cornea is a transparent lens. It is a transparent layer or transparent lens in, sorry, just a second. It is a transparent lens that allows all of the light or the proper amount of light to enter the eye. So the couple of students asked me to revise on the eye structure. So please focus on this part. Then the pupil and the iris. This area is the iris, and it contains two types of muscles, circular muscles and radial muscle, to control the size of the pupil. And I will talk about the size of the pupil and how our body responding, or the muscles responding to, by the next slide. The lens, and the lens here is responsible for taking all of the amount of light and refracts light. Refracts light because we have here medium and we have outside another medium, so air here and light coming from the air, and here we have a transparent fluid, which is vitreous chamber or vitreous or aqueous humor. There is no need to know the name of this transparent ball or transparent liquid, but at least to understand in what keeps our eye in a ball structure like this. Now we moved to the back side of the eye, and on the back side of the eye we have a sclera. السكليرا يا أولاد هي الوايت of the eye, الوايت of our eyes, the white part of the eye is called the sclera. And we have an area here called the fovea, and the fovea is the point that the light will binding at. So if he asked you, ya Malak, what is the main function of the fovea? It is the point on the retina the light will binding at, okay, or refracts to bind at this point. The retina itself, the retina has two types of receptors, يا حمزة, rods and cones. الrods to detect the light intensity يا فيلو, لكن الcones to detect the colors. So you have two types of receptors to detect the light intensity and the color, or different colors. All of the light now received by the retina, and all of the electrical impulses has been created. So all of the electrical signals will travel through the optic nerve to the brain in order to translate all of the electrical impulses and in order to see. The blind spot here, this blind spot is a point with no rods and cones. So if he asked you to write about or to describe what is the blind spot, or to write on a blind spot, you should say structure-wise, يا يمنى, this is a point, has no rods and cones, helps in eye compensation. يعني ايه compensation؟ يعني the two eyes working using different mechanisms should coordinate everything together, should compensate everything together in order to see the image clear. Back to the front side of the eye, I have two areas I did not talk about, the ciliary body and the suspensory ligaments. And they will be super beneficial in the eye accommodation part. Let's talk about them in the eye accommodation. This is to show you rods and how ya Hamza, the photoreceptors here send the electrical impulses through the synapses or synaptic area to the brain. Okay, so this is the direction of light. We have a lot of sensory neuron, and through the synaptic area we will have rods and cones considered as photoreceptors, and then message will be definitely transmitted to the brain in order. And
Mister, can I ask a question?
يا عمر لما هينفع تسأل هقول لك يا عمر.
بس هي دي كان لها it was about the past diagram of the eye.
يا عمر.
لا اللي كان قبل ده يا مستر، انا كنت بس يعني yes it works here. هو الكونز and rods and cones most commonly found where، عشان كان في برضه question على يعني amount في الفوبيا والاماونت في البلايند سبوت والاماونت في الريتنا.
حاضر هقول لك، حاضر. اوكي what else؟
بس كده مستر شكرا.
اوكي طيب. For cones cones enables us to see different colors, as I told you, and we have different kinds of cones, red, blue, and green, with different degradation of colors. You can definitely see using those cones. Sensitive to black and white or light intensity. Okay, so definitely it will help you to see if we have dim light. But in the exam, if he will talk يا ملك يا حكيم about the dim light والbright light, he will talk about the reflexes of the pupil. So the pupil reflex is a reflex action happened under the control of circular muscles and radial muscle. In bright light, what will happen is that we need to protect the inner structure of the eye. So we need to limit the amount of light that enters the eye. So the pupil will be constricted. Constricted how? By an action of two types of muscles, circular muscles and radial muscle. قلت لكم during explanation دايما تفتكر circular because it is in a circle, and radial because it is like a radius of a circle. So you will not be confused between both. If the question of the reflex action and it was out of 4 marks, how can we take 4 marks? I will write first of all, يا joy, a generalization technique. So I will talk about a reflex action generally. Then I will talk about how this reflex action protects the inner structure of the eye because it will reduce the amount of light entering the eye. The circular muscle, in order to constrict the pupil to make it smaller or to make it less or constricted, a circular muscle will contract and the radial muscle relax. Like this will relax in order to give a chance to all of the circular muscle to contract. And the pupil will be constricted. I don't like smaller, بس يعني if you forgot the word constrict, so you can write smaller instead. Why? To reduce the amount of light entering the eye. Why? To protect the inner structure inside the eye. In dim light, the opposite will happen. We need the dilation or vasodilation happen, or not constriction. We need the pupil to be dilates. Why we need to make it dilated? Because we need to increase the amount of light entering the eye in order to see properly. So here, there is no need to talk about the protection, ya Malak. You need to talk about how we need more light entering the eye in order to see. Radial muscle contracts and the circular muscle here will relax. So نفس الكونسبت يا أحمد, if he said something about iris and how it will control the pupil size, you will talk about the stimulus, the receptor, sensory neuron, relay neuron, and motor neuron, then the effector. يبقى أنا يا أولاد, please don't imagine إنه in every single question related to the passageway of the impulses or the pathway of the impulses, I need to write something different. No, if you understand the technique, for any question you will answer, you need to use this technique. Okay. The part of the image and how it formed, it's not that important, but as you can see, a light rays refracted and your lens will cause more refraction in order to send the message in the retina. So it will be refracted on the retina, on the fovea specifically, and then the image will be, or the electrical signals will be transmitted through the optic nerve chain. This is one of the most important technique ودايما بتسترخموه, eye accommodation. Look, in order to understand this, start from here. If we have here an object far, okay, so rays will come as parallel rays. Light waves coming as a parallel waves. What will happen here? Like 6 major changes happen. How could I write the 6 major steps? I can write at least 4 or 5 of them if I know what are the basic parts that participate in this. اللي بيparticipate في الاكوميديشن يا ملك السالري muscles الsuspensory ligaments, and please check the label line. This is the celery muscle, this is the suspensory ligaments, and this one is the lens. Definitely you know the lens, and you need to say how it focuses the light on the fovea, on the retina. Okay, what will happen for each structure? Number one, in order to bind or refract light, we need very thin or flat lens. So the ciliary muscles will relax and the suspensory ligaments become taut or become, strong or rigid in order to pull the edges of the lens to make it thinner. وكأني بقول لك انها بتشد اللens to be thinner. This means انه اللens become less convex. اوكي؟ طيب لما بتكون اللens حتة فيزيكس صغيرة خالص tiny physics point، لما بتكون اللens convex ده increase حاجة اسمها focal length. الديستنس اللي between الميدل of the lens and البوينت هنا دي اسمها focal length. يبقى أنا محتاج إن أنا increase الفocus length أو الfocal length in order to see the image properly. خلاص المسج has been transmitted يا جوي. النيرف impulses produced in order to deliver the message to the brain. البرين يبدأ translate this in order to see a distant object. I will listen to all your question when I comparison quickly between a distant object و near object. لو أنا عندي object بقى near object like this. Okay, what will happen is إنه light rays coming in that way. Light rays ما بتكونش جاية in a parallel form if I have near object. So we don't need less convex, we need the lens to be more convex in order to decrease the focal length here. أنا مش عايز الفوكال length now يا حمزة يكون that big أو that distant يعني. أنا I want it to be really smaller than the far object. That's why بيبقى عندي lens دي بتكون إيه؟ fatter أو بتكون spherical أو more convex أو thicker. And the fourth part is the same. طب ازاي بقى يا ملك يا حكيم بتبقى lens thicker؟ ازاي بتكون more convex؟ برضو عن طريق الciliary muscle والsuspensory ligaments. الciliary muscles here بتcontract. So when the muscle contract the suspensory ligaments بنقول عليها ايه؟ slacken يعني ايه؟ يعني relaxed. وبرضو يا يمنى لو نسيت slacken in the exam I can write relaxing. Okay, because it will be relaxed. فلما تبقى relaxed اللينس بتكون thicker or more convex. This is the eye accommodation. If you have any question please ask now. Yes يا عمر.
هو مش السسبنسوري ligaments they're not muscles صح؟
Suspensory ligaments is a ligaments لا not a muscle.
Okay, so how does it relax؟ هو مش muscles بس اللي relax و contract؟
لا يا حبيبي، هي relaxing it means ان هي when it became slacken مش بتجيب نفس التنس على اللانس، مش relaxation as a kind of mechanism.
مستر I'm just asking because of the wording، يعني ما ينفعش
لا
ينفع
if
اقول
you want
relax ولا
لا
اقول
write
slack؟
slacken يا عمر وطلع نفسك بره القصة دي if you want، بس if you want to explain using relaxing don't worry, we'll consider this right, don't worry.
اوكي.
Okay, what else? Any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Do you think it became way better now? الريفيجن كده effective يا ولاد؟ ولا نحل past papers أحسن؟ أنا I
لا.
want to hear your feedback please.
Mr. It's effective.
طيب
So
أوكي.
this is perfect، بس احنا خلصنا اللي انا عايزه، فممكن نروح
طيب.
نحل بعد دلوقتي.
لا ليه نبقى selfish كده والباقي يا عم؟ احنا we are 14 in the meeting، فاحنا we have to respect all of them. اوكي ماشي يا عبد الرحمن. خلينا نكمل التوبيك. اوكي. جوي are you in؟
تمام.
اوكي everything is fine, you don't have any question. يا كيمو ما سمعتش صوتك يا كيمو.
ايوه يا دكتور.
اه everything is fine. تمام خلاص. داخل تجيب الناين ولا الموضوع
ناين.
هيبقى صعب؟
لا ناين ان
ناين يا كيمو، انا ما بهزرش. البايو دكتور كريم
شاء الله.
ان شاء الله طبعا everything لازم طبعا يكون باذن ربنا. اوكي. جوي you were talking everything is okay، مش بتسالي وده شيء بيقلقني.
تمام.
Okay. Now we have covered topic 14 البارت بتاع الكوردينيشن اند ريسبونس. خلينا نجو فور الهرمونز. اوكي because some of you asked me برضو للبارت بتاع الهرمونز عشان نكمل topic 14 كله. ال difference between the chemical response and the electrical response. Okay, we will pass through this quickly because honestly we have to price a lot in the hormones and the name of the hormone, different types of hormone, the target organ. So we need to revise on this. Okay. Okay, let's start with hormones. What are hormones? This could be a definition, or you need to know this as a definition because you might use it in your answer as a general point زي ما قلت لكم. Okay, so hormone is a chemical substance, most properly protein in structure, and transmitted through the blood to the target organ. Imagine if you wrote transmitted through or to their target organ. جملة كلها scientific terms يا أحمد. So you will definitely gain marks if you wrote this answer. Okay. Hormones produced by either ductless glands or some hormones produced by duct glands, but it's not our job now. خلينا focus on the ductless glands or the endocrine system because the main part in the syllabus. Okay, so the main glands that we studied in the syllabus is the adrenal gland, the hypothalamus in controlling the temperature, because hypothalamus has a major role to detect the temperature change in the body, the ovary and the testes in males, the ovary in female definitely, and the hormones estrogen and progesterone. تعالوا بسرعة نريفايز on الاستروجين والمين فانكشن بتاعته. الاستروجين بيريبير اليوترين لايننج. الاستروجين بيكنترول secondary sexual characteristics, and you know well how to write the secondary sexual characteristics. أما البروجسترون released from الكاربس luteum, this is to maintain the uterine lining. بعد الovulation يا كريم خلاص الأوفا is ready for الfertilization, so we need to provide all of the suitable conditions. So البروجسترون do this job, control أو maintain, وplease use the verb maintain in your answer, uterine lining. Pancreas and the negative feedback mechanism by pancreas. Insulin secreted to regulate blood sugar rate by converting glucose to glycogen. So glucose will be converted to glycogen, while glycogen is stored on the liver. In case that you are fasting, in case that you need more glucose, another hormone secreted from the pancreas called glucagon hormone. The glucagon hormone responsible for what? Glucagon hormone will convert some glycogen to glucose in order to maintain or regulate the blood sugar rate. The effect of adrenaline, okay, and the importance of this. Very important to know the effect of the effect of adrenaline and the importance. عارفين ليه في question like this يا ملك يا حكيم مش بناخد الفول mark? Because you will list directly the effect of adrenaline without why. When he asking you the effect of adrenaline on the body, you should say إنه هيعمل إيه why. ما هو أنا increase the rate of breathing, increase the rate of heartbeat. طب why? Because we need more oxygen to being ready for aerobic respiration. طب heartbeat, we need to deliver oxygen and glucose to delivered or transported more quickly to the muscles. Pupil, this is will be dilates in order to see. Because we are in danger. ما هو الادرينالين ده بيخرج امتى؟ لما بنكون in danger or for a fight or flight response. It increases the rate of blood clotting. So if the skin is cut, the blood will clot faster to prevent excessive loss of blood. ايه supplement parts بقى اللي انا لازم اكون as a student in year 10 عارفها؟ It increases the metabolic rate, so more energy will be provided for the muscle. It stimulates a liver to convert the glycogen to glucose, and it causes the arterioles to the skin and the intestines to constrict. Why? أنا مش محتاج البلاد يروح لبطني دلوقتي. I don't need the blood to go and pass through the skin or الintestine. I need the blood to go to the major parts of the body that coordinate in this in this job or in the fight or flight response, which is the muscles. Okay. Next part of insulin. As we said, the effect of insulin, and insulin decreases the blood glucose concentration, while glucagon increases the blood glucose concentration. Comparison, I will listen to Omar, between an endocrine and a nervous system. Could you please take 1 minute or less than 1 minute to read the difference? And if you have any question, please ask. Ahmed, are you okay with this? Everything is perfectly fine?
زي الفل.
اوكي والله ده انت اللي فل يا احمد. سيشن ريكوردد وبقول لك انت اللي فل، ويعني ما شاء الله السيشن بقت بروفيشنال جدا. anyways يلا يا عمر.
Mr. when we say that the arteries or the blood vessels dilate, constrict, this increases blood pressure, صح؟ يعني ممكن أقول
لا
it
تاني
increases
معلش
blood
ما
pressure.
سمعتكش. لما بنمنشن وات؟
constriction of blood vessels.
احنا بنعمل كونستريكشن بس في السكين والانتستين.
طب ما هو
not for
مش
the
كده، مش
whole
هيخلي
body.
البلاد بريشر هيزيد عند الانتستينز وكده،
لا يا
skin.
حبيبي not to that extent. احنا بس هي when it became constricted يعني less blood will pass through digestion process through digestive system. Why؟ ما هو انت محتاج البلاد ده in another parts of the body.
Yeah.
That's it. فلا there is no need to talk about this. Okay, is there any problem? Is there any problem in this table؟
مستر
نعم يا مايا يلا قولي.
هو the last one يعني أنا الصراحة مش عارفة ازاي أقول اللي
In
بتاعت
the table؟
nervous control. أيوة بالتيبل
The last point
last
in the table. طيب بص يا بابا
أيوة.
الاندوكراين gland might affect more than one target organ. يعني ايه؟ يعني ممكن هرمون زي الجروث هرمونز affect some organs in the body to grow. لكن nervous system usually localized. يعني ايه localized؟ يعني it has a specific location. اوكي يعني بتشتغل على specific part. مش بتبقى الافكت بتاعها for the whole body. This is the idea of the last point. Okay?
اوكي ثانك يو مستر.
Okay. برافو يا مايا، انا قلت انك نمت. شاطرة يا مايو. يا مايو زي ما بتجاوبي حلو في الفرنش لازم تجاوبي كويس في البايو احسن. ولو درجة الفرنش طلعت احسن من البايو هتشوفي اللي هيجرالك. Next part. What is homeostasis? Homeostasis as a definition بيجي اوقات 3 marks. طب how could I write a definition to catch 3 marks? Homeostasis is the maintenance of constant body environment or either in internal conditions under the effect or after the response to the external effects or external stimuli. How could we maintain this? We can give him an example. Okay, so for the third mark in this definition, you can give him an example of homeostasis. وطبعا أسهل example إيه يا عمر؟ example of الانسولين أو السكين وهاو it controls the body temperature. Okay. لا this is خلاص easy. negative feedback mechanism of in الهوميوستاسيس. كلمة negative feedback عشان ما تحسوش ان هي complicated at all. The word negative feedback it means after taking an action يا مايا, after taking an action from the body, your body will release an opposite response to stop the action taken. يعني for example, if I need to increase the level of insulin secretion عشان control the blood glucose level. خلاص الانسولين يا ملك اشتغل وحصل secretion والبلاد glucose has been regulated. أنا لازم أقول إنه في receptors بتديتكت إن البلاد glucose has been regulated to sense this would send a message to the gland to stop the secretion of الانسولين اللي هو البنكرياس. يبقى generally الهوميوستاسيس involves a negative feedback. ما هو negative feedback ده يعني بكنترول الكونديشنز زي ما انتم ما شفتوا يا ولاد. فالهوميوستاسيس is a real example of negative feedback or it involves a negative feedback. بصوا هنا على الاكزامبل ده. If I have normal blood glucose level, okay, and then رحت ضارب ايه يا عمر؟ chocolate bar. What will happen in the stimulus had sense انه الستيمولس here هو what I am eating والreceptors will sense okay ان انا I am doing something wrong وانه في blood glucose concentration عالي. فالreceptors هنا هتعمل ايه؟ هتروح للislands of Langerhans اللي هي البنكرياس يعني وهيكون stimulated by this receptors. once ان هو stimulated هيعمل ايه؟ هيعمل corrective mechanism. هيروح ببساطة جدا رايح لكل البادي سيلز وهيحدف لها انسولين عشان تابزورب more glucose inside. طب الباقي excess amount of glucose will be converted to glycogen. once إنه ده حصل يا يمنى, what will happen in the negative mechanism or negative feedback إنه ال blood glucose concentration decreases والreceptors بتاخد بالها من ده وبتreduce الانسولين production. الريسبتورز بتسنس انه خلاص يا جماعه ال blood glucose concentration has been regulated already. This is called negative feedback. What about ال effect لو أنا I have less glucose, لو أنا صايم في رمضان for the whole day, ال opposite mechanism اللي بيwork on الانسولين برضو يا مايا عشان enforce ال liver to convert ال glycogen to glucose. Okay, so now we will have more blood glucose and blood glucose level has been maintained or became normal blood glucose level. Okay, symptoms of type 1 diabetes. Okay, type 1 diabetes كلنا عندنا حد عنده سكر في البيت. كلنا عندنا حد عنده تايب 1 diabetes at home, يعني ربنا يحميكم كلكم. بس من أهم symptoms of type 1 diabetes إنه بيحصل sweating at night, وبيبقى دايما البيشنت بيفيل thirsty, دايما lose amount of water لأنه بيحصل successive urination. amount of urination يعني كبير جدا, ودايما بيفيل tired. اوكي, ما بيبقاش قادر يعمل a lot of activities. اوكي, that's for the insulin. The human skin will temperature regulation. برضو one of the students asked me to revise on vasodilation and vasoconstriction. خلينا take a look on the skin layer. Okay, the skin layer تبان complicated جدا جدا, but actually it is extremely easy because all what I need here ال hair follicle, المسل اللي بنقول عليها erector muscle. ال erector muscle هي المسل اللي بتكنترول ال erection of the hair. لما بنقول كده in Arabic ده أنا شعري وقف. اوكي, ال erection of the hair. بعدين ال sweat gland, الابيديرمز, الديرمز, subcutaneous fats او الفات deposits, واهم حاجه يا اولاد النيرف endings اللي هي الريسبتورز here and البارت بتاع البلاد capillaries. Okay, don't forget انه there is a vessel here between the arterioles والvenules called shunt vessel. shunt vessel. حالا نراجع على الفانكشن. هنا بنتكلم على الستراكشر, هنا بنتكلم how does the body lose heat. اوكي, خلينا نتشيك كده انه بصوا حبايبي, هنا البلاد فيسلز مش بتقرب وتبعد, عشان في ستودنت في الاكزامز بالذات في بيبر 2 نبقى نتكلم عنها بعدين, when he gave you a diagrams انه ال blood vessel became close to the surface بتختاره وتخرج من الاكزام تقول I got it right. الفكرة كلها يا اولاد في ال diameter of ال blood vessels. اوكي, خلينا نتشيك what will happen step by step يا يمنى. ال skin arterioles dilate لما يكون عندي more heat loss. انا دلوقتي محتاج الوز more heat لان انا عملت activity رهيبه واكسرسايز رهيبه و I need to lose more heat. Okay, so the heat will carried by the blood او في الارتريولز to the skin surface. طيب عشان lose الهيت دي وعشان expose more heat للسكين surface, السكين arterioles will be dilated. اوكي, طيب دي dilated يبقى السيرفيس هنا هيكون فيه a lot of blood. then اكمل البوينت ازاي يا ملك؟ I have to say increasing the blood flow to the skin. ويا حبايبي هو مش حفظ كتير at all, ما هو أنا بس بكمل الجملة يا مايا عشان أقدر آخد المارك. اوكي. next point. just seconds يا ولاد. ممكن مايا بليز. مفيش مشكلة. thank you. The second point, الشنت vessels will be constricted. I don't want يا حمزة أي blood يرجع under high temperature back to the body. That's why الشنت vessels here will be constricted. Why? عشان زي ما بقول لك I don't want the blood going back away from the skin وهو under high temperature أو when it has more heat. Number 3 اتكلم بقى على الهيت لوس. اتكلم ازاي البلاد فلو دوت خلاص عند السكن بيليد to greater heat loss. خدنا ال 3 marks. الكويستشن ده مش هيجي اكتر من 3 marks at all. question لو هو هيجي more than 3 marks يا جوي هي ask you على الهيت لوس وعلى ال less heat loss. اوكي. لو انا دلوقتي بقى during الوينتر وعايز اكيب البلاد temperature يا عبد الرحمن high inside my body بعمل ايه؟ الاوبوزيت تكنيك. الارتريولز will be constricted والشنت vessel هي اللي بتكون dilated to return البلاد بالهاي هيت او بالمور هيت back to the body. وطبعا البلاد فلو عند السكن هيكون less, that's why بلوز less heat. وده البارت بتاع الهيت بارت. طب الهايبوثالاموس ليها دور في الريجيوليشن؟ يس. الهايبوثالاموس was a gland control الريجيوليشن. Why it controls the regulation? Because we need the body temperature to be low. عشان ايه؟ عشان كل الميتابوليك activities. اوكي؟ طيب نفس الميكانيزم will happen بس كل اللي هزوده imagine يا حبايبي ايه؟ ان انا هزود انه البادي temperature when it rises في thermoreceptors في السكن خلاص قلناها وفي receptors بتبقى من الهايبوثالاموس will be stimulated. اوكي. يبقى انا عندي الهايبوثالاموس والسكن بيعملوا نفس التكنيك بالظبط يا جوي. اوكي. هو البلد is near to the surface ليه؟ عشان reduce الهيت by radiation. انا البلد دلوقتي بيكاري مور هيت لما اباست على السيرفيس باكسبوز البلد على السيرفيس جسمي بيهدى بيحصل سويتنج بيحصل ان البلد اكسبوزد للسيرفيس يقدر يكومينيكيت معاه ويريليز مور هيت outside the body. You got it? نفس التكنيك بقى بتاع هنا الهايبوثالاموس نفس same technique of الثيرموريسبتورز same technique بس هزود عليه السويت جلاند وازاي السويت جلاند بتبقى more active in order to release more water او more sweat عشان ده بيكول البودي. انت كل اللي انت محتاجاه ان انت explain how البودي will return back to the normal body temperature. طب regarding الميتابوليك rate أنا عندي already heat عندي already respiration. So أنا مش محتاج إن أنا أزود الميتابوليك rate. أنا محتاج إن أنا reduce الميتابوليك rate to reduce the amount of release. Okay, this is for the hypothalamus. ده الopposite يا ولاد. للميكانيزم لو انا عندي low temperature اوكي والtemperature can below normal طبعا you can read it من البرزنتيشن this is exactly the opposite. اوكي. topic response is it اوكي ولا عايزين نراجع عليه يا ولاد؟ الاوكسينز وازاي بتريسبوند الجرافيتروبيزم والفوتوتروبيزم. is it okay? Let's move to another part ولا you need to revise on this؟
هو ده تمام.
اوكي تمام. ما هو الكويستشن ده اكيد هيبقى فيه ناس هتقول لي تمام وناس هتقول لي نراجع عليه بس يعني يومنا عايزانا نراجع عليه. تفتكروا مش هنراجع؟ يمنى بتقول عايزة تراجع يا ملك يا حكيم، تفتكري هنطنشها؟ قولي لي انت يا ملك.
لا طبعا.
لا طبعا، ماشي. ايوه صاحبتك، يا لهوي عليكم. ماشي. مش هتكتبي لنا حاجة عشان نصورها ونعمل بيها فيديو يا يمنى زي المرة اللي فاتت؟ الله عليك يا أستاذ. هفكر. ماشي، فكري. اوكي. اوكي. خلينا نجو باك للتروبيك ريسبونس. طيب بسرعة جدا نبص على التروبيك ريسبونس. التروبيك ريسبونس هو الريسبونس plant to the external stimuli, either plants or any other organism respond to external stimuli. This is considered as a kind of sensitivity. بس التروبيزم itself هو الجروث بتاع البلانت which is affected with any kind of stimuli such as the growth, such as the light, such as the gravity, such as the water, such as any chemical. لكن طبعا يا جوي احنا في السيلبس عندنا الجرافيتروبيزم والفوتوتروبيزم، هم دول التو main tropism او examples of tropism عندنا. اوكي. طيب خلينا نتشيك. لو انا هكتب الديفينيشن بتاع التروبيزم بس هتكلم specifically عن الفوتوتروبيزم، ينفع اكتب same definition يا ملك؟ Definitely not. I have to be highly specific على الفوتوتروبيزم. هو نفس الكلام هقوله response with which a plant part grows towards or away from a light source، لانه photo it means light. Okay. A lot of investigations to investigate the effect of light on the growth of the plant. بس conclusion من كل investigations دي يا يمنى انه we have auxins at the tip secreted at the tip of the plant. فوق خالص في اي plant بيجرو we have auxins secreted. Auxins after secretion في tip of the plant it will move by diffusion على sides of seeds أو plumule والradicle اللي هما parts اللي هيبقوا shoot then root of the plant. طيب on which basis auxins will affect أو mechanism؟ خليني أقول generally if I have a seed like this. يلا بقى. If I have a seed like this, this is the plumule. معلش أنا برسم رسم طبعا مش لطيف، بس لأني مش عايز أروتيت السكرين عشان الساوند بيبقى مش كويس. اوكي. طيب look احنا اتفقنا انه الاوكسينز بتكون في التip of the radical. This is the radical اللي هي بتبقى الروت and this one called plumule اللي بتبقى بعد كده الشوت part of the plant. For the response of gravity, auxins will be accumulated يا حمزة on this side. لما accumulate on this side by diffusion stimulate the growth on this side. That's why it grows upward. كأني بقول لك أنا مديك proper space هنا يا حمزة to bend the plant upward. طيب in the radical it will be accumulated on this side وبتعمل opposite technique reduce the growth rate. Okay, reduce the growth rate on this part or on this side of the radical. So a plant has an ability now to move downward or upward by auxins دي. ده example of الجرافيتروبيزم. طب في الفوتوتروبيزم يا يمنى أنا I have برضو هنا الأوكسينز اللي هي موجودة في tip of the plant and I have here sunlight. So light coming from this side. What will happen is إنه الأوكسينز will be accumulated on the shaded side of the plant. طب لما هي تبقى accumulated on the shaded sides يا كريم, what will happen is إن البلانت إن ده بيستيموليت the growth of the plant of the shaded side of the plant, فالبلانت بيبقى عنده ability to bend towards the sunlight, لأنه it became هنا okay more stimulated the shaded part. كل السلايدز اللي جايه عن الجرافيتروبيزم والفوتوتروبيزم فيها البروسيس دي. Don't forget يا ولاد ان احنا we have any device بيديستريبيوت الاوكسين زي الكاينوستات for example, any device بيديستريبيوت الاوكسينز easily و evenly, مش هتبقى accumulated on any of the sides, ده هيخلي البلانت grow in one direction. اوكي بصوا الراديكال grows like that, ما نزلتش downward. Why? لان انا I have a machine here or a device called or an instrument called clinostate, ده وظيفته انه يديستريبيوت بيروتيت دي rotated يا ولاد cycle. Okay, this is the point here. work خلاص قلناها. نقدر نتأكد من البرزنتيشن. طبعا ده لايت في الفوتوتروبيزم. اوكي وهنا الامبورتنس بتاعت التروبيزم اصلا اني ابقى البلانت go towards the light او away from the light to the earth to absorb more nutrients. يقدر ازاي يعمل photosynthesis. خلص التوبيك ده. انا شايف انه في مسجز في الشات بوكس. طيب انا مش عارف طيب خليني اتشيك كده. ماشي. I didn't understand the auxins. I think يا عز انت you know now auxins. This was a previous message ولا لسه مش فاهم فيها حاجة؟ طيب حاضر. سؤال الجرافيتروبيزم بيجي كام درجة؟ سؤال الجرافيتروبيزم بيجي كام درجة؟ it depends. يعني it might be 4 marks maximum يا يمنى, not more. نفس الكلام للفوتوتروبيزم because you are writing same technique. اوكي فنفس الكلام هتتكلمي على ازاي بيجرو downward. بتستارتي بالتروبيزم as a definition وهتقولي ان انت البلانت بيرسبوند towards الستيمولاي either الجرافيتي or اللايت. then بتتكلمي على distribution of الاوكسنز. طيب بالنسبه للجرافيتروبيزم يا فين السلايد اللي انا I draw فيها؟ Yes, just a second. Okay. دلوقتي أنا I have seed of a plant like this. إحنا we said الجروث هرمون اللي بيهلب في الفوتوتروبيزم or الجرافيتروبيزم called auxins, and it is secreted or produced at the tip of the plumule or the tip of the radicle. Fine. It's secreted at the tip of both. Okay. هشوفها يا يمنى بس اخلص الاكسبلانيشن واشوف انت كاتبه ايه حالا. Okay. Then it will move downward. Sorry. It will move downward on this side. Okay. The upper side, you can say the upper side, not the inner side, or the outer side, not the inner side, accumulated, and this stimulated growth in this layer, on this type of cells. لما increase the cell elongation, yes, increase the growth of cells. If you have more cells, more elongated cells, مش ده معناه ان السيلز دي will bend او has an ability to bend upward. This is for the plumule. Please let me know if ال negative gravitropism دلوقتي clear. Text me as okay, fine. طيب خلينا نتشيك في الراديكال. في الراديكال الاوكسينز will released برضو from the tip of the radical. الاوكسينز travel in the inner part, not the outer part, in the inner part or across the inner part. بس هنا بتعمل opposite function, بتreduce the rate of growth أو بتreduce ال elongation rate أو بتstop ال stimulation of the growth in this part. بلاش نقول stop، خلينا نقول reduce أو slow down. لما بنسلو down ال growth on this side مش ده معناه in a way or another إنه this type or this outer layer will grow more, so the radical will bend downward. Okay, because it has more cells, give flexibility lil plant to move downward. Now we are talking about a positive gravitropism and a negative gravitropism. This one a negative and this one a positive gravitropism. Okay. Is it now clear? الأوكسنز طبعا الأوكسنز في البلوميال speed up وسبحان الله في الراديكال slow down الجروث. You are totally fine. Okay خلينا نتشيك يومنا قالت ايه. So we need to mention الأوكسنز, we need to mention against gravity. الأوكسنز will trigger growth in a specific direction. احنا قلنا بقى لازم تقولي الانر layer أو الأوتر layer، وهتقولي ازاي بتسلو داون أو stimulate مع definition طبعا of التروبيزم. Yes, this will be a perfect answer. Okay, that's it يا ولاد. ماشي. Okay. Yes يا جوي. write down الانسر الكويستشن ولا you will ask me loudly؟ لا سوري مش سامع. لا write، طيب write على في الشات بوكس لانه you are so laggy يعني مش سامع خالص الساوند. write في الشات بوكس what you want to say او send me privately if you want. طيب ده كده يا ولاد التوبيك بتاع topic 14 وكل الديتيلز اللي انتوا you asked for. Are you still ready to revise on another topic؟ يا رب تقولوا
يا مستر ايوه.
طيب برافو عليك يا احمد، برافو عليك. اوكي خلينا نتشيك كده what you mentioned على الجروب first. طيب coordination response food chain endocrine system كده يا عمر انت ناقص لك الفود chain. الاي structure يا ملك I think now it's fine. البايوتكنولوجي كريم، البايوتكنولوجي في سيشن recorded session we explained البايوتكنولوجي كله يا بابا، فانت ممكن تتشيك البايوتكنولوجي بس to save time. البايوتكنولوجي وامنه برضو احنا البايوتكنولوجي والجيناتيك انجينيرنج it was a whole chapter وخدناها في سيشن لوحدها، فبس I think انه there is no need to go through this. ونفس الكلام يا مايا check a recorded session for this، ده معناه ان احنا مش بنفتح recorded session اصلا. اوكي ال disease and immunity والاي structure. الله طب ده حلو خالص، احنا قربنا نخلص الحاجات اللي انتوا طالبينها واليوتريفيكيشن. طيب يعني احنا ناقص لنا الديزيز اند اميونيتي واليوتريفيكيشن. then هتشيك بقى فيلو واحمد. لا الريبرودكشن ممكن نعمله بكره في الكلاس يا يمنى، لانه انا محتاج اقول لكم حاجات فيه مهمه. ممكن حضرتك تقول ايه اللي بي ايوه بس ايوه الدراجز ما فيهاش حاجه غير الديفينيشن بتاع الانتيبيوتيك وازاي بيأفكت البكتيريا. ممكن حضرتك تقول ايه اللي بيحصل في البلوميول والراديكال في الاوكسنز؟ طيب حاضر. في البلوميول بصي in both عشان لو جالي سؤال similarities in both الauxins responsible for growth والauxins will be secreted at the tip of both الplumule والradicle. What will happen في الplumule in الauxins after الsecretion في الtip of the plant, it goes down by diffusion and accumulated on the outer side of the plumule. وده بيستيميوليت الجروث on the outer side of the plumule. However, in the radicle, it will be accumulated or it will be secreted from the tip برضو, لكن it goes upward by diffusion على inner side of the inner side of the radicle. وده بيكوز ايه؟ بيسلو داون او بيريديوس الجروث، بيسلو داون الجروث on this side. That's why the plant can bend either upward or downward يا جوي. اوكي، خلينا نجو for ال disease and immunity.
بس لو البلومير والراجل دول اللي في السيد نفسها صح؟
يا حبيبي دول اللي بيخرجوا من السيد نفسها. اوكي حمزة، ايه التوبيك اللي عايز تعيد عليها؟
اللي هو البيولوجي والانفايرمنت.
الايه والانفايرمنت الايه
بيولوجي.
البايوتكنولوجي يعني.
لا اللي هو بتاع اللي فيه ديفورستيشن والحاجات دي بتاعت 6 درجات دي.
الهيومن
الايكولوجي يا
انفلونس.
مستر، انا برضو اللي كنت عايز
الهيومن
تشين.
الهيومن انفلونس اون ذا انفايرمنت. حاضر ماشي نعمله حاضر. طيب في التوبيك بتاع الديزيز اند اميونيتي، احنا we don't have a lot to say in this topic خلاص، لانه التوبيك ده ما بقاش فيه غير ال definition of transmissible diseases. And here we can say انه transmissible disease هي disease caused by pathogens and it can pass from one host to another. We have different defense system or defense action taken by the body. Some of them are mechanical, some of them are chemical, and some of them are cellular. In order to prevent the pathogens from entering our bloodstream, from entering the body أصلا, we are using either mechanical or chemical barriers. الميكانيكال barrier اللي هي السكن والهير اللي في النوسترلز، أما الكيميكال barrier الميوكس, and you can write mucus like this no problem, and the stomach acid. Don't forget إنه الميوكس secreted from الجوبلت cell، لكن السيليتد cell بتmove it away. بس عشان واحنا بنكتب الانسر بتاعتنا there is a cell called goblet cell. الجوبلت cell هي اللي بتسكريت الميوكس and then it will be moved by or carried by a ciliated cell outside the body. طيب for how pathogens get into our body, we have direct contacts. بنتسأل عليه like one mark question. Give me an example of a direct contact. Indirect contact, like all of the factors in front of you: contaminated surfaces, airborne infection, and animals, unhygienic food preparation والcontamination. أحافظ على إنه how can the spread of waterborne and foodborne diseases be controlled by all of these factors. ودي just memorization، ما فيهاش أي حاجة complicated. الكوليرا دايما زي ما أنا ما عملته معاكم، إحنا we studied الكوليرا as a part of a digestive system. أوكي، بس خلينا دلوقتي نعرف إزاي نعمل treatment للكوليرا. الكوليرا is a disease caused by البكتيريا and it is transmitted through contaminated food or water. التريتمنت اوف الكوليرا باي الانتيبيوتكس فور ذا كوليرا. بس يا فيلو لو جه قال لك التريتمنت اوف الدايريا مش هينفع اقول الانتيبيوتكس. اوكي خدوا بالكم من الكلمه، بياسك يو فور ا تريتمنت اوف كوليرا ولا التريتمنت اوف الدايريا. لو تريتمنت اوف دايريا انترافينس يعني اللي هي بنقول عليها ان اربك المحاليل، اللي بتتعلق لنا في أي hospital، و drink water containing some sugar and iron. The immunity احنا we have passive immunity and active immunity. الباسيف immunity مهم جدا اني اعرف عنها when we are taking او acquiring الانتيبيوتكس الانتيبوديز. اوكي، لو انا مش my body اللي بيبروديوس الانتيبوديز this is called passive immunity. أما الأكتيف immunity when your body producing antibodies from the lymphocytes and it is highly specific because active immunity has a lot of antibodies produced from the body against a lot of antigens, and we are taking a lot of vaccines يعني لأنه it is highly specific. ما ينفعش تقولوا إنه vaccine واحد يقدر يcover a lot of diseases. طب why? Because each antibody has a specific shape. It is a protein structure يا يمنى. يبقى هنفتكر إنها بتform الantibody antigen complex زي ما عندنا enzyme substrate complex. It is somehow the same. Antibodies play an important role in destroying foreign particles, and very important to mention this as a point. Okay. This is the mechanism how the specific immune system works. So الانتيبوديز bind للبكتيريا بتكب البكتيريا clump together, so we can definitely give a chance for الphagocytes to eat or engulf those kinds of bacteria. طيب بعد كده directly يا يمنى don't forget to mention الميموري cells. احنا خلاص we damage we kill البكتيريا. على طول اتكلم على الميموري سيلز وازاي هي بتشتغل. خلاص اتكلمنا على الفاكسينيشن وال immunity, and for the part of the drug you need to know more about antibiotics only. How antibiotics used to treat the bacteria and some fungal infection. Antibiotics inhibit what? ازاي بتعمل الميكانيزم ده؟ inhibits the synthesis of bacterial cell wall, protein synthesis, cell membrane, والenzyme action. That's why we kill bacteria by using antibiotics. ليه الانتيبيوتكس بتkill البكتيريا but not الفيروس؟ I have 4 points in this answer. الريبوزومز absent, الcytoplasm absent, cell membrane absent, and it have a protein code. يعني simply it's uncellular structure or non-cellular structure. بس عارفة يا يمنى ما كتبتش ليه إنها non-cellular structure؟ لأنه لو question out of 3 أو 4 marks عايز آخد marks. It has nothing من السيلولر structure. That's why قلت له بدل ما اقول له ان هي مش cellular قلت له يا سيدي دي ما فيهاش cell membrane. It has no cytoplasm. It has no ribosomes. And that's okay. الانتيبيوتيك resistance bacteria. Okay. So antibiotic resistance bacteria احنا we need to say what is the reason of antibiotic resistant bacteria. The main reason هو mutation happened أو sudden change happened للgenetic material. When some bacterial cells mutated, they became resistant للantibiotic. تديله antibiotic, there is no effect. So when these bacteria reproduce, the mutation كمان will pass to the second generation. ازاي احاول احافظ على نفسي انه ما يحصلش الانتيبيوتيك resistance? How this happen? We should take a full course of antibiotic, and this will prevent the survival of bacteria. mutation يا اولاد هنا فيها 4 points لازم اخدهم. كلمة mutation والديفينيشن بتاعها أول مارك بتallow البكتيريا اللي حصل فيها mutation to become resistant to antibiotic. This is the second mark. Competition will happen and bacteria اللي هتsurvive هتقدر تreproduce. كده third mark and then الميوتيشن will pass from generation to another وده ال fourth mark. Okay, this is the immunity part. Okay, look for tomorrow's session. just second يا ولاد، في حد كتب حاجة. ممكن الاكسكريشن والكيدني structure if we have time. أنا فايقة بس check with others. هي الكونسبت إن أنا I have another session يا ولاد in 10 minutes و honestly I need a break. honestly يعني أنا مش بطلب البريك ده كتير بس honestly I need a break. فمش هقدر أكمل أكتر من كده for today's session. Next session which is tomorrow in school أو حتى الأونلاين يا ولاد، أحمد حمزة فيلو جوي كل اللي هيقدر يجوين الأونلاين session at night هنريفايز on البايوتكنولوجي الإيكولوجي والهيومن influences on الإيكوسيستم وطبعا الجروب of the students in school. I will revise on everything tomorrow morning in school for 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. Then we will answer past paper on the next 1 hour and a half. So we will take the all of the rest tomorrow inshallah. Okay, excretion, reproduction, respiration, human influence. I think يعني honestly يا يمنى كده هنكون رجعنا على كل ال 21 topics by the end of tomorrow يعني. بس المين priority دلوقتي في session بكرة للhuman influences on the environment, الecology, البيوتكنولوجي والاكسكريشن. اوكي if you need ده الاونلاين، ده في الاونلاين. okay if you need any other point please let me know. thank you so much يا ولاد. I'm sorry بس حقيقي زي ما قلت لكم I need a break.
I have a question.
يلا يا ملك يلا.
هو it's about tomorrow. هو بكرة هيكون in real life صح؟
بكره from 10
هو
to
احنا
1
بكرة يعني هنعيد الايكولوجي والبايوتكنولوجي.
هنريكاب on الايكولوجي والبايوتكنولوجي والاكسكريشن والريبرودكشن وهنحل باست بيبر. whenever خلصنا كل ده هنروح.
طب يعني do I get my past paper book ولا؟
لا خالص، انا I print out الباست بيبر اللي هنحلها يا ملك.
ماشي.
don't get anything. I want بس your pencil case والكالكليتر والرولر. pencil case بتاعت الاكزام.
اوكي ماشي. thank you.
اوكي thank you so much ليكوا كلكم. معلش سامحوني، كان نفسي اقعد معاكم اطول من كده، انا مش بتاخر عنكم بس حقيقي محتاج بريك. اوكي what do you think your feedback يا ولاد؟ your feedback. انتوا عارفين ان انا بحب البارت ده جدا. اوكي احمد.
حلو جدا يا مستر، ثانك
thank you
يو.
يا عمر. تمام التوبكس اللي احنا اوريدي وي ريفايزد انت تمام فيها، استفدت من الريفيجن. طيب
ايوه
تمام
it's very
تمام يا
nice.
حبيبي. طيب برافو عليكم. معلش حاسس انه it's not a time of answering a lot بس it's a time to catch كده ايه البوينتس اللي احنا حاسين ان احنا we are somehow behind فيها. عز انا شفتك بتدخل الميتينجز كتير. الانترنت I think wasn't that good. فانت you can check the recorded session after the meeting if you wish. Joy I will see you tomorrow. كريم التوبكس اللي راجعناها حسيت ان هي added something new ليك او ثبتت في دماغك حاجه؟
احلى بقى، يعني
طيب
عرفت يعني
الحمد.
ثبتت اكتر.
طيب الحمد لله الحمد لله. انا I heard from your mom ان انت you are doing such a great job في ال past papers ف keep it up. خليني اتشيك البوكس اخيرا. welcome
مستر
anytime يا حبيبتي anytime. نحل سبيسمن 2023 حاضر no problem. نحلها بكرة. ويلكم يا جوي. انت عارفة يعني انت exactly like my daughter. حاضر نحل السبيسمنت مفيش مشكلة بكرة no problem ونظبط معاها اكزام تاني.
مستر
مفيش مشكلة. thank you so much يا حبايبي. يس يا عمر.
first of all thank you very much Mr. for this session, it was very helpful.
اوكي
واحنا ممكن بكره نعمل مع البيبر 4 بيبر 6 برضه if we have time
لا
علشان
لا 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 هنعمل بيبر 6 في وقت تاني، ما تقلقش على بيبر 6 خالص يا عمر. don't worry. هنعمل وهنحل عليها كتير، بس احنا we need to focus on البيبر اللي عليها 50% of your total grade. هنخلصها
أوكي.
وبعدين هنعمل سيشنز البيبر 6 وهنحل كتير، don't worry.
ماشي.
اوكي ما تقلقش خالص. يلا باي.
باي.
باي يا حبايبي، باي باي.